You do not need a giant fortune to live off dividends. You need a rule. Most people hunt for the biggest yield or a magic nest number. That is why they stall out, or worse, blow up their income right when they need it. The people who actually pull it off use something quieter, almost boring, that lets them spend without selling and sleep through market storms. It feels like cheating because it turns the market from a roller coaster into a paycheck machine. Here is the counterpunch. The fastest way to dividend freedom is not chasing high income now. It is building income that raises itself later. The wealthy already play this game. They do it so calmly you do not notice it happening until years have passed and their checks are bigger than your salary. There is a name for what they use. Most investors have never heard it, even though you can write it on a napkin. By the end of this, you will understand exactly why. Imagine two people starting from the same salary, the same savings rate, the same dream. Live off dividends in about a decade. Call them Max and Lena. Max grabs the loudest yields he can find. He wants big checks now. Lena writes 3 words on a sticky note and builds around them. She calls it the dividend engine rule. I will tell you exactly what it says later. For now, only the outcome matters. In their first year, Max's mailbox is heavy. Lena's is light. At every barbecue, Max brags about the cash pouring in. Lena shrugs, reinvests, and smiles because she knows something Max does not. Here is the false summit most of us camp on. You think the amount you need is just your annual spending divided by some yield you find online. It seems clean. It is also the trap that blindsides people at the exact moment they retire. Because price charts move, payouts change, taxes bite. And a quiet variable, you are not tracking compounds like crazy. The secret lives there. Hold that thought. Timing is not just a stock market thing. Income has a clock too. Companies announce raises on a schedule. Miss a season of smart positioning and you are not just skipping one check. You are lowering the floor of every future check built on top of it. This year is not like last year. Interest winds are shifting, profits are uneven, and boards are getting cautious. Cuts tend to cluster when the tide goes out. At the same time, a smaller group of boring, cash-gushing businesses keeps inching payouts higher, even when prices wobble. If your plan depends on a brittle yield that only looks good when the sun is shining, you are building a house on wet sand. If your plan locks in raises that outrun your personal inflation, you are pouring concrete. The dividend engine rule decides which one you are actually doing, no matter what you tell yourself. You do not need perfect timing. You do need to stop guessing and set this rule before your next raise season hits, because after that the math starts running without you. And once it is running, changing course gets expensive. Max did what most people do. He opened a screener sorted by yield and started stacking names that paid him the most today. First few years, he felt brilliant. Bills paid, trips funded, chest out. Then the quiet stuff crept in. A few payouts got trimmed. One was suspended entirely. To keep income steady, Max added even higher yield names, the kind that promise the moon and hand you an apology when the cycle turns. Meanwhile, his living costs kept rising. He did not feel it at first, but his groceries cost more, utilities crept up, property taxes had a way of growing without asking permission. Max tried to plug the holes by buying more shares, but he was using the same paycheck, and the market was raising prices on anything solid. When a rough patch hit, the prices of his highest payers fell the fastest. His yield on paper looked bigger than ever, but the dollars actually landing in his account were smaller. Here is the part nobody talks about. When you build on unstable payouts, you force yourself to sell shares during bad times to make up the gap. That turns a temporary storm into a permanent dent. Max had not planned for that. He had planned for sunshine. Lena started smaller. Same savings, lighter checks at first. She picked sturdy businesses that had a habit of sharing a little more with owners every single year. She wrote one more line to herself: never depend on raises you cannot explain. So she learned what actually funds dividends: cash after everything else is paid, balance sheets that do not wobble, leaders who raise even when nobody is cheering. Then she did something weird in a world obsessed with income now. She let the first few years pass with a smile and reinvested almost everything. Her mailbox stayed light, but the number of tiny paychecks multiplied, and each tiny paycheck kept getting a little fatter. Somewhere around the middle of her plan, something flipped. Without changing her lifestyle, her annual dividend total caught up to Max's. Then it passed him, not because she found a magic stock, because her raises layered on top of each other while his got reset. Here is the part nobody talks about. Lena also kept a simple cash buffer. A quiet year of expenses in a high-shelf jar. During market storms, she did not touch her shares. She lived from the jar while her payouts kept marching. So the storm ended, and her income was higher than ever because those raises never missed a beat. She bought time, and time paid her back with compounding. Here is the secret, finally. Dividend freedom happens when your starting yield plus reliable dividend growth is greater than your personal inflation plus the bite from taxes and fees. When that is true, your income buys more every year without selling a single share. So how much do you need invested? First, decide what you actually spend to live a good life. Then choose a portfolio with a starting yield you believe is safe across storms, even if it is lower than the flashy stuff. Use that safe starting yield to size your nest. Annual spending divided by that yield gives you the rough capital. Now pressure test it. Ask whether the long-run raises you can reasonably expect will outrun your personal inflation and your tax rate. If yes, you are done building a paycheck machine. Keep a simple cash buffer for about a year, reinvest excess while you are still working, and when your payouts cover your spending, stop reinvesting and let the raises carry you forward. That is how Lena won with less drama and, in the end, less money than Max thought was possible. If this clicked, subscribe. I make money feel like a story you can actually live. Tap like so more people stop chasing and start building. Next, watch the episode where I show the exact blueprint that lets retirees ignore market crashes, the cash wedge and the raise machine. It is the quiet combo that turns panic into paychecks. I will see you there.